To the program. It's a Wednesday night. We have lots to talk about tonight. Great lineup of guests, including Zach Albaverdi and our own David Moulton, plus a report on Trinity Thomas. A little bit worried about what's happening. So come along and join us tonight and tell your friends and neighbors. The Buddy Martin Show is about to be on the air.
Yes, it's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Good evening and welcome to the program. I'm Buddy Martin. I'm on this air 4 times a week and sometimes more. You can also catch me on other shows like the Sideline Show on Saturdays with Rob Brown and, of course, Brady Ackerman. Excuse me. I got Brady Ackerman on my brain today. I wish he was back. My friend Shane Matthews, he'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll be doing the morning show with him on Tuesday. So tonight we have lots to sort out. The orange and blue rosters are out. I've looked them over. I'm trying to make sense out of them. I don't know if I can, but at least we're going to have kind of a scrimmage tomorrow night, barring rain, and it looks like it is going to rain. So we'll see about that. But our whole team will be up there. We'll be bringing you live reports. We'll be reporting and writing on it. And tonight on the program, we're very glad to have back on the air in a moment Zach Albaverdi, our friend. Guy had a little history with me, and he might be responsible. The most person was responsible for me owning Gator Bait right now. Well, we will tell that story. Zach's had a couple of good articles. This week he was also on Paul Feinbaum, had some interesting things to say about the new defensive coordinator, Austin Armstrong, and of course he's always on top of things, reporting for Gators Online. It's David Moulton night, always good with David. He's got a few things to say. Gets a little crusty. We like that. He'll have a few takes on SEC football. A word around today, this week, is all about the controversy on the Feinbaum show that somebody said that the best coach of all time was Kirby Smart. Yeah, Kirby Smart. Okay, I'll just leave that there. You might be able to guess who it was. And I guess it presents kind of a debate about how do you judge the greatest coach of all time. Winning back-to-back SEC championships certainly is impressive. Does that mean he moves out the GOAT? I don't know. What do you think? So we'll discuss that one as a matter of fact. And then there is, I think, an erroneous report that was about Trinity Thomas, which we won't get into in depth about her situation with injuries. And tonight we hope to hear from our gymnastics writer on Gator, but does a terrific job. Dan Bond, if you haven't read his stuff. And by the way, please come along and join Gator Bait. We're doing some good work for you, and our guys are turning out terrific copies. So all that. We'll check in with Dan Bond a little later on. And hopefully we'll be hearing shortly from our friend Zach Albaverdi, followed by Dan and then David Moulton. Let's take this break right now and go let's hear from our sponsors. First of all, Meldon Law.
When you're a member of the Gator Nation, you know what it means to never back down. Meldon Law has been a proud supporter of the Gator Nation since 1971. Two forces that won't back down. As the old saying goes, if you can't beat 'em, join 'em.
All right, thanks very much. And on to our friends at Titan MRIs.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
All right, thanks very much. Text from Zach that he was ready, and I hope he knows to check on the link. We'll be talking to him shortly. Yeah, I got the rosters. Let me stop for a second. And while we're waiting on Zach, talk for us a second about the amazing Tampa Bay Rays. Got a challenge tonight, finally. Trying to go 12-0, playing the Red Sox. Rookie pitcher started for them and did quite well. Taj Bradley just called up, and he held the Red Sox in check for 5 or 6, and then he struck out Rafael Devers twice, the rookie pitcher, trying to get a win in his first outing. Then he left the game, and then just now, in the last inning, Devers hit a 3-run shot, and now the Red Sox are threatening in the 8th inning, knocking off the undefeated Tampa Bay Rays. How about that? Talking baseball. Let's go talk some football, and let's talk with Zach. But first, let's see Dan Bond's on the line. Let me get a hold of Dan there first, because I want to get some information from him, and then we'll talk to Zach. All right, let's go to the Orange and Blue Hotline. The guy from out in Dallas, excited about what's going to take place tomorrow night and this weekend, hopefully. Dan Bond. What's up, Dan?
Hello, how you doing?
Okay, my man. Listen, you scared me there. You heard a rumor, which you didn't put out, but you heard and passed it along there. Tell folks what it was, and we'll talk about the status of the situation.
Yeah, first I saw a post where they were going to get on the jet to come to Fort Worth, and there was a comment that from Trinity Thomas that she's like, "Good luck, be safe," but it ended up being a fake account. So I did, for a minute there, I was super nervous about her not even taking the trip out here, but turns out she's out here. They released some video of her thing at the Dickies Arena doing the bar routine, which is the least stressful on your ankle. When she hurt herself back in 21, if you remember, she came back and did some bar routines in the regionals, and that was it.
You mean this picture right here that you sent me earlier today? You can't tell that really that's what her on the bars, which to you was a good sign.
Right. Oh, yeah. Hopefully, she can do more than the bars. They're going to need her for sure to advance this first round, which is 3 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow. So in the afternoon, Florida is playing. And then in the evening session is where the 4 big teams, Oklahoma, UCLA, Utah, are all in that group. And you figure all of those can advance. And then 2 in Florida's group. So you're looking at Florida more than likely, and maybe LSU. We'll see who that is. And then they move on to Saturday on ABC for the national title. So it all hinges on her. Definitely no pressure. When she can't, back in 21 again, when she did finally get to the final, she went in all 4 events. So I'm hoping she will compete. She did stumble on the bars back that year with that injured ankle. If you remember, she hurt herself really badly in that last meet against Alabama and pretty much derailed that season for Florida, unfortunately. And we're kind of in that same boat, but they have the horses, they have the kids that can score the scores. But in this part of the schedule, you need 9 nines. You need all 6 girls to hit on all their events. You can't have any mistakes because these other teams are not going to have mistakes tomorrow and Saturday. So it'll be exciting to watch. I'll be there pulling for our Gators and seeing what's happening. And hopefully we'll get lucky and Oklahoma can stumble and get eliminated tomorrow night, and we won't have to face them Saturday night.
Yeah, Dan's done a terrific job of reporting. I kind of call him a fan writer I don't know how you can do. He balances it pretty well. He's an avid fan, has been for a number of years. Attended a lot of meets and several. How many nationals you been to? I don't know, quite a few.
Yeah, I
Right.
kind of fell in love when I moved out here, and the national championships out here every year, and I figured, hey, let me check it out. And they won the national title 3 years in a row, and that gets you excited no matter what sport it is. So that kind of got me along, and I try and go anytime they're nearby. And same with softball's coming up and baseball. Those are always good times of the year for me to go check out A&M or Oklahoma or LSU. Those are all pretty close to Dallas and are easy to get have a fun road
Yeah.
trip.
Well, you just explained, Dan, exactly what you have to do to get in again. So all of us are not is hip on that. About what Florida has to do to make the finals.
So tomorrow, you have 8 teams. You have 2 breaks. The first 4 teams, Florida's in at 3 o'clock Eastern. So they have to score one of the 2 highest scores, kind of like the regional rounds before. So if they score that, then they're going to move on to Saturday. Now, because they had such a low score in the semifinals, they're in the bottom 4, which may work out for Florida because they have tougher competition to go against in that 3 o'clock slot. And all the big dogs are in on Thursday night. And you're going to have either Kentucky and Utah eliminated, or UCLA and Utah eliminated. We'll just see. But it's good to have them out of the way of Florida's scoring high. But Wong's play, is looking great. DiCello's looking great. You need them to score high scores, and they've been rolling along the end of the season with like a 39-7, 39-6 combined score, which is where you add the groups together, the 4 bars, beam, floor, and vault. And those scores are going to count. So we're going to see. Hopefully they can get off on that vault. So we'll be watching that first of all, and we'll see if Trinity shows up on all events.
You'll post tomorrow if there's an injury. You'll post on Gator, right? If she's injured.
Oh yeah, I'll keep you updated on what the warm ups are, and if she's warming up on the other equipment, then I'll let you know, and that'll be a good sign.
Great, Dan. We always appreciate your reports, especially, and we're going to really look forward to them this time around. Dan Bond from Dallas, our gymnastics man. Thank you. All right, let's go to the orange and blue room now. I think the gentleman of the hour is here and ready and got his. He's been on Fine Bomb, so it takes a minute. He has to get his makeup on and get everything ready to go. And I want to say good evening to my friend Zach Abalverde. And if it's okay with him tonight, I'm going to tell the story of how he got me involved with Gator Bait. Okay? And I hope you're hearing me okay there, Zach. Are you? Not, you got. I don't hear.
I can't hear you.
There you go. Now, all right, good. There you go. Yeah, how you doing, man? Good to see you.
I'm doing well, buddy. How are you?
Good. Thanks for joining tonight. Been a while, and you've been such a busy schedule. And I just want to take a minute. I don't know whether to thank you or curse you. I want to thank you, of course, because in our conversations that we had, at one point you were considering buying Gator Bait. And we had a conversation, and you convinced me I had to do it. And so, being the patron saint for lost causes that I am, I accepted that, and I'm glad I did. It's been quite a journey. You, meanwhile, have gone on to a couple of jobs since then, and now with Gators Online on 3, you are, like I predicted 4 years ago, coming one of the media stars. And congratulations on your success, and did a nice job on Paul Feinbaum yesterday.
Yeah, that was fun joining him, and obviously good time of the year to be talking Florida football with him, because I think everybody's excited to see what this spring game is going to bring. You get 27 new players that are going to take the field for the first time in the Swamp, at least in front of fans. Mm-hmm. And we get to see the new DC. A lot of position battles that are going to kind of play out under the lights. So I'm excited, buddy. We've been going out to practice and only getting a glimpse, and now we get to see the real thing in a spring game, but still.
Well, it is what we've got, and look, I had this discussion with my friends, particularly my friend David Moulton, who will follow you tonight. We had this discussion, and I try to remain somewhat in the middle, but I obviously, like the rest of us, like to cover winning teams, and I'm an optimistic person, and I'm not blinded by loyalty. I hope, and I hope I'm not a sunshine pumper, but maybe I am. I tend to see glass half full, whatever. And so as we go forward, and I've been kind of a wait and see guy on Napier. I, like others, thought he was arrived last year when he beat Utah. We didn't know that was a little fool's gold in there, and it was a tough year. And so now the program, and Zach, you do your podcast and you do your writing, and you hear the same thing. Gator fans, there's quite a few of them who are skeptical. And I understand why. 6 and 7 is not going to cut it. But then I'll ask you this question. How do you measure progress? You don't get to see that much of practice. And we get press conferences that are kind of controlled. We get to ask a few questions. But in the end, we don't know all that much about it until we see them on the field. Tomorrow night, we get to see them on the field. What will we be able to tell, Zach?
Yeah, I think obviously the biggest thing that you want to try to take away from the game is just where they're at with replacing so many starters. I mean, they've lost 13 of their 22. So that's a lot to replace, and that's at key positions too. So I think we'll find out a little bit about this team. I do think they're going to play vanilla on both sides, and I think with the way that it's set up and how they split the rosters, I think it's conducive for the starters to have a lot of success. But it is a situation where we still don't know a lot, and I think that at some key positions, there's still a lot to be determined in terms of the quarterback battle, in terms of who's going to start at inside linebacker, which I think is a critical spot on defense. I think the defensive tackles and nose tackle situations might have. I think that those two transfers that they added are probably going to start there, but there's still question marks at safety. You lost both of your starting safeties along with both of your starting inside linebackers, and that's the one position where Billy's come out and said, "Hey, we need help there." But I do think that there is, as I talked about on the Feinbaum show, because he asked me, like, what should Florida fans look to for reasons for optimism? And I think it is that they are returning a lot of their top players from last year. I mean, that's according to Pro Football Focus. 4 of the top 6 players on offense are back. 7 of the 9 top players on defense are back. And a lot of those guys were added by Napier and the staff. So I think they feel like they'll get some more impact players from that 27 that I mentioned that kind of just got added in January. But we can only take away so much from the spring game because it is still a glorified scrimmage at the end of the day. And that trip to Salt Lake City will give us a much more accurate picture of, I think, where this team and where this program stands come fall or come August.
Zach, anybody can do that. Once they see the game in Utah, it's our job to talk about it before it happens. That's what we do, right? I did read some of your pieces, and I really liked your piece on Austin Armstrong. And there seems to be, and you mentioned this, I think, in Feinbaum, good energy for Austin Armstrong. I've not seen him work in person. I've only seen the videos. I haven't really interviewed him. I can only go by what I heard online. But it feels like, it seems like he has a connection there to this defense, which has to be based on sweat and getting in the dirt and really an integrity of teamwork and brotherhood. Like all defenses, they have to come together and have that bond. Can this guy bring this about?
I think that's part of what he brings to the table. That is one of the things that I don't think gets talked about as much with him, but it is something that he likes to highlight and underscore as to what his values are and to what he's really bringing to the table. Um, and he is a player's coach at the end of the day. He's one of those guys that are going to be very involved in the lives of his players, and he seems to be a little bit more, his coaching style and how much he gets on these guys and some of the nitpicking that he does with their game. I think it's a little bit new for some of these defensive players,
Yeah.
and they've had to adjust to having a coach, having a defensive coordinator who seems to be a little bit more invested in each and every one of them, and that some of that has to do with how they've set it up with this staff, and he oversees the whole entire defense as opposed to just having one position. So I think that setup has kind of helped with the way that they've structured things, but I also think, and not as a negative on Tony, but that I think the reason why you're seeing so many people talk about this guy's energy, because I think that's something that was lacking
No question. I was
from the
going to get
last
to that.
DTC.
Exactly.
I mean, and that's not again, that if you are a type of coach or a type of DC that's not energetic, that's not rah rah, that doesn't mean that you can't be effective. That just wasn't who Tony was, and I think that when things weren't going bad, they could have maybe have used some of that energy, and I think that's what Austin's bringing to the table. So it's just a nice change of pace.
Yeah.
I think it was needed after a really bad year with Grantham, 2 really bad years with Grantham, and then a really bad year with Tony. Like, you just needed a guy to come in and be a breath of fresh air. And now, if he didn't have the pedigree and he didn't know what he was doing, then that wouldn't matter. But he does know what he's doing, and he
Nick
was
Saban
learned
sure
from.
thought so. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and so did Kirby Smart. So I
Right.
think that if you're trying to fix the defense, I mean, you couldn't hire a better guy in terms of who he learned from than someone like that. So
100%. And you've been around sports, you know this, that so many times in basketball, they say rebounding and defense is inspirational. You got to want to play great defense. There's some of that in football. I never saw that fire or felt that bond or saw it. And Grantham was a really smart defensive coach, but he didn't inspire anybody that I could see. And Tony, I kept thinking Tony's going to be it, but I never felt like even his positions were played well. And I didn't see anything. He was apparently quite a coach, and everybody says so. But my eye, which is not that trained, didn't see it. I'm seeing things now I like in defensive coordinators. And Zach, you've been around a long time. You've seen these defensive coordinators. You've seen coaches. And you've been on the field. Does it feel like something's going on there?
yeah, he's just the cloth that he's cut from is what you like, and he's still got to put a good product on the field at the end of the day. But I think it just. I've said this before, and I really believe this, and I think Billy does, that I think that Nick Saban probably hired him with, in the back of his mind, Austin potentially being like a next Kirby Smart, a next defensive protege that he could kind of have come up under his program, eventually become the DC and just kind of be his right-hand man. And I think that's what probably Saban was banking on, and I think that Napier's doing the same thing, and he kind of swooped in and took what was supposed to be the next Saban defensive protege, and I think that that's what he's counting on, and he's getting a young guy in Austin Armstrong who potentially, if things work out and he does do a good job, could be here for quite a while until he's in the position to maybe get a head coaching job, which I'm sure is his goal.
And Zach, I don't know about you, but I really like the Corey Raymond move. To me, I know people have specialty positions, but it feels like that Corey Raymond is such a force that that he should run the whole secondary, and finally he's doing that. It just feels like the right thing, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think that if you're going to do a situation like what they've done, where you basically are making the DC oversee the whole unit, and now you're basically leaving the secondary to one guy, although Austin's still involved with the safeties. But if we remember, Billy justified hiring 2 offensive line coaches by using the example of, in the secondary, you don't just hire one coach, you hire 2 defensive back coaches. So why wouldn't you do that for the offensive line?
You're right.
So if that was his thinking for, getting 2 offensive line coaches, then for him to just now go with one secondary coach, that shows you how much he thinks about Corey Raymond. I think he's probably one of the only coaches in the country where you can give him the whole entire secondary and feel comfortable and confident about it.
Yeah.
And here's another thing that probably doesn't maybe get talked about or realized enough, but Corey Raymond has been and will continue to be a candidate to go to the NFL. And as long as you can keep him in college and keep him at UF, you want to do that if you're Billy. And I think by giving him a promotion and a contract raise and an extension, makes that more of a reality for the foreseeable future.
Good point. And the final thing for you, I would like to get you. Thank you for coming on the program tonight. Appreciate it. This show appears on multiple platforms, YouTube and whatever, and I got a comment from a guy that I did not know, and because I had made a comment on the show, I thought Billy Gonzalez was absolutely a home run hire. I think I have a little knowledge of that, as do you. Why? We've seen him through two other generations, of coaches, and clearly he's sent to the NFL for a reason, because he's a good coach and a really good coach. And when you hear people talk about him in reverent tones, they talk with reverence about Billy Gonzalez. And this guy wrote a note saying, "Home run hire? Are you kidding me? I watched his receivers when Mullen was here and Billy was here, and he said they were lazy." I thought to myself, if there's one adjective I would not use about those receivers is lazy. And I said, "Sorry, my friend, you're wrong. Defend me."
Yeah, I was pretty vocal about Billy when he got hired for a third time, and the fans that weren't excited or didn't think it was a great move, I just didn't understand it. I thought it was disrespectful for Billy Gonzalez, who produced 2 first-round picks as the Florida wide receivers coach at 2 different times. And look, I know Percy Harvin was an incredible athlete, but he did not arrive at Florida as an incredible wide receiver. He was an incredible athlete, and I think that he would not have been the receiver that he became had he not been coached by Billy Gonzalez. Now, he probably still would have been a first-round talent, but he would not have been as dynamic of a receiver had he not been developed by Billy. And he maybe doesn't get as much credit for Percy, but he definitely gets a lot of credit for Kadarius Toney, and that was an even more impressive coaching job, what he did with KT. So I just don't understand how any fans that know Florida football history can look at those 2, and that's just 2 examples. I mean, there's countless guys that he's coached and developed and had drafted at Florida, and they all vouch for the guy. They all are outspoken about him on social media. I mean, it's not anybody that knows these players, and especially these guys that are in the NFL, like, they're not going to just get on a social media platform and lie and put out something for a coach that's not truthful and that they don't feel is so. I just, all those factors. I just think that there's a lot of stigma that came from, that last regime that he was a part of and how it ended. All of the wide receiver recruiting was not on him. He didn't have the final say so on the wide receivers that they added to the room, just like he doesn't now. It's a staff effort, and it's up to Billy, just like it was up to Dan beforehand. And there was a lot of guys that assistant coaches wanted to add to that staff that have Billy said, or Dan said no, or Todd Grantham said no, then they didn't get to add. And there was other guys that if they told their assistant coaches to go recruit them, they had to go do it. It didn't matter if they didn't think that the kid was good. So I say all that to say I think that some of the flack that he gets for some folks that are nitpicking about some of the wide receivers that got signed, I just think that you should focus more on the first round NFL wide receivers that he's developed and put into the league more so than maybe one or two guys that they missed on during his last stint, some of whom may not have even been guys that he wanted. I mean, if folks remember, and I don't mean to pick on Jamarcus because he's apparently been doing really well at safety this spring, but when he came to Florida as this sleeper prospect and this under the radar guy that was supposed to outperform his recruiting ranking, it wasn't Billy Gonzalez that was beating on the table about him. It was Dan Mullen. And that really hasn't come to fruition. And now he's a converted safety. So I just don't think it's fair to put all that on Billy. And I think that anybody that's worried about wide receiver recruiting now with him back, I think you should look at the last wide receiver class that Florida signed and maybe feel like that's not going to be a problem.
Great points. And the final thing is that Percy Harvin was a hybrid. He was not a wide receiver. Okay, I'm sorry.
No.
He played in Urban Meyer's offense, mostly a slot guy. He was happened to be a terrific receiver.
I mean, you could make an argument that he was even more a more dynamic ball carrier than he was a receiver.
Yeah, the jet sweep, all that stuff. And the second thing is that keep in mind, this is what's remarkable, is that 2 years ago, that all four receivers from Florida's offense, well, they wound up going to the NFL. All Billy's players, and he put four of them in there just recently. And again, like you said, talk to the players, ask them what they got out of it. Now Billy wasn't perfect. He had a blow up with Urban Meyer when Urban was here, and whatever that was about, I don't know. But I think he's absolutely as good a coach as they could have hired for the wide receivers. I applaud it. I think it's going to work out. And I can't wait to see Aiden Mizell and Andy Jean develop. I want to see them tomorrow night catch the ball, don't you?
Yeah, and I just, to add to that, apparently he interviewed like 12 guys for the wide receiver coaching job. And
that many, huh?
Whatever the number was, I can't imagine those candidates on paper, strictly on paper, had a better resume than Billy Gonzalez.
Yeah.
Like I'd be shocked if there was one, and that's part of the reason why he got the job.
Yeah. Great stuff from Zach Alberverdi, the star of the Paul Feinbaum Show. Great to have you back on the program again. And read him on Gators Online on 3 and see him on his podcast. What's it called again? I got to get it right. Podcast.
Gators Online Show.
Oh, Gators Online Show. Okay, you're not part of that other thing. Okay, great. Thanks, Zach. Be well, my friend.
All right, bud. I'll see you tomorrow night.
Looking forward to it.
Take care.
Alberverdi, one of the truly bright up-and-comers. Here's a guy who was a bright up-and-comer at one time. Yeah, he was. Despite, and I guess maybe I was a great, bright up-and-comer in my mind, but this guy's done it. He's gone to the top, one of the very best, and we're thrilled to have him every week. Well, I say every week because I don't know, but he wasn't here last week. I sent out the Highway Patrol FBI looking for him. I realized he was off, but David Bolton, what's up, buddy? 2 weeks ago, you were out.
I was going to say I missed 1 week.
Yeah, well, I can't have you doing that. All right.
Gotcha. And by the way, I was a young and up and comer in the mid to late 80s.
Yeah.
I was a young up and comer.
Who gave you your first break, David?
I was interning at a TV station in Scranton, Pennsylvania, and the station was in the middle of being sold. And so there was a hiring freeze, and the weekend sports anchor left for a job. And they had the Monday through Friday guy work, and he did every show for like a month. And then finally he walked in and he said, I am not working 7 days a week anymore. Find somebody to work Sundays. I'm taking a day off. And so they turned to the intern and they said, well, good luck. And so I was 20 years old, wasn't even a senior in college. And there I was doing televised sports in a top 50 market. So
Now,
that's where it
how
started.
did you get down to Naples and Fort Myers? People don't
Uh,
realize how long have you been doing that show? You did. I remember before you had Miller, and at least 20. Well, maybe 15 years. I don't know.
I've been in Florida since late '99, and been doing sports talk radio since my first show on the radio in Florida was the day Michigan State beat Florida in the national title game. I think that was April 4th of 2000. That was my first show. It was a Monday, obviously. It was Championship Monday, and so the Teddy Dupay, Billy Donovan's first trip in the title game. Mateen Cleaves and the Spartans won, and so I've been doing sports talk radio for 23 years.
I'm thinking, when did Michigan State beat Florida in the national championship game of football for the title? Oops, wrong sport.
Right.
My mind goes right to football. All right, so listen, even you old curmudgeon, you guy that grants you steals happiness, have to be a little bit impressed by the news that we've seen out of Gainesville. The recruiting.
Buddy,
Wait a minute,
buddy, this has been the best week, and it's really a half week so far. But if you go back to the baseball weekend and the Gators winning a big series, honestly, this has been the best 5 or so days that the University of Florida athletic department has had, maybe since the pandemic. I mean, maybe.
Say that again. Say that one more time. Let me make sure I get it right.
That this is the best 5 days that the University of Florida athletic department as a whole has had, maybe since the pandemic. Maybe. I know if you consider, the baseball team winning and where they're nationally ranked, hopefully the star gymnast will be able to compete for the gymnastics team. But you think about, first off, Napier's right now having a great 2024 recruiting class. You look at what's happening in men's basketball with the transfer portal. I mean, I've seen some rankings saying that the Gators have had the best.
Number one.
So far. I mean, we'll see, but right now it looks great on paper, and goodness knows they need an infusion of talent. And to be able to get the kid from Iona who spurned Rick Pitino and decided to come home instead. I mean, and then it looks as if finally a year plus late, and there was some damage done, but it certainly looks now as if the Gators have their NIL act together. And, now hopefully we can see a little something tomorrow in the spring game.
Exactly.
And it'd be nice if a quarterback could actually impress. It would. And I don't know if the coaching staff will even allow it to happen in a spring game situation or not. But I mean, it would be nice to throw a little meat to the Lions here if maybe one of the two quarterbacks could actually have people going, hey, he wasn't bad.
Yeah, that they got the orange and blue rosters out today. I've tried to make sense out of them. The orange squad's the one got the running backs and the first team quarterback and Mertz and whatever and so on. We'll see how that works out. I mean, I don't expect to see any world class 400-yard day, but I'd like to see him throw to some of those receivers. I'd like to see I'd like to see some offense, maybe a few good defensive plays as well.
I mean, just the last time that the fans saw this team, they got shellacked. And the season ended with a really bad taste in their mouth. In a way, it would have been nice if the season had ended against Florida State. Yeah, it was a loss, but it was a really good game. I mean, you came out of that game thinking, wow, we can compete. A lot of guys are gone, but you know what I mean. I mean, that bowl game was pathetic. Now, granted, they had about 13 healthy, scholarship players. I get it, but it would just be nice. It would be nice if you're trying to, be hopeful, and if you're, gonna listen to Buddy Martin pump you up for the next 4.5 months. It'd be nice. It'd be nice if a quarterback could actually look like they have a pulse.
I'm
that
an
would help.
optimistic person, David. I even
said,
see a future for you, even.
Listen. They've had a great week. I'm saying it'd be nice. That's all. I'm just looking for a pulse from a quarterback tomorrow.
I got you,
That's
and
all.
I agree. And by the way, don't forget, if they win a national championship in gymnastics, that wouldn't be too shabby either.
Well, with Tiffany being hurt, though. I mean, how about just make it to the final?
Well,
Let's just see. They've
yeah,
got the depth to do it,
they
but
do.
let's this is tricky. This
It
is
is. My
tricky
man
here.
Dan Bond follows it real close. By the way, you failed to mention the Rays won their 12th game tonight.
Well, we were talking about the Gators.
I know,
so
but I'm just
that's
talking
why I
about
haven't
good
gotten to
things
it.
happening.
Oh,
All right, well,
awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. They're going to lose 3-4 games this year. 158 or 159 wins, something
I'm
like
thinking
that.
162 and 0, baby. But anyway, it was a little
the
different.
Yankees get them once or twice.
Yeah, maybe. They keep hitting home runs. By the way, tonight they trotted out a rookie pitcher, Taj Bradley. You probably saw it, Taj Bradley.
It did.
And he pitched really well. Got struck out Devers twice, but later on Devers came back to hit, not off of him, a 3-run homer and tightened it up and make it 8-7. And Rays win 9-7 to go 12-0. And when you start finding yourself in the record books, I saw it today with the St. Louis Maroons. Is that one of them? With some of these teams I never heard of, the 1880s. And like Kurtzman said, baseball doesn't keep modern baseball records. Don't go back before 1800. So, but they're of all-time difference in runs produced. Rays were 63. They were like fourth all-time. It's been an amazing few. It may go away, but it's been an amazing 12 games in a couple of weeks.
Even with them giving up 7 runs tonight, they still have hit more homers than they've allowed runs scored. They have 30 homers to 27 runs allowed, which is remarkable. I believe heading into this game, they had one of the 4 longest win streaks to start a season since 1901.
Yeah, is it the Braves they tied tonight? Is that who it is?
Yes, Joe Torre and the 82 Braves.
Yeah.
Yes, and now they're trying to tie their next game. I don't know if it's tomorrow or Friday. They're going to try to tie the 91. Is it 91? Milwaukee? No, 80. I don't know.
Too
80.
much
I think the 87 Brewers who won 91 games.
Yeah,
That's where my numbers are
It was.
Tom Trebelhorn began his managerial career, a rookie manager with Milwaukee in 87, winning his first 13 games.
Yeah, and baseball's fun. I like the clock. I like
30
the
minutes. 30 minutes so
Don't you
far.
like it? I really like the rhythm of the game even better.
Did you hear the story that it's affected beer sales? And so now teams, there are 3 teams that have already extended now how long it is until they turn off the, taps. Because it used to be either at the end of the 6th or mid-7th. Well, now some teams are saying at the end of the 8th inning. Because if you think about it, I mean, in a 3-hour and 10-minute game, they were giving you about 2 hours and 10 minutes before they cut off the beer. Well, if the game's going to go 2.5 hours, it's taking us damn near the 9th inning then. So
you can fix that. You can have the second inning stretch a couple of minutes longer if you wanted to. You can find ways to do that and have a timeout, beer timeout. What can I say? So, they'll figure that out, I'm sure, in some way. All right. So David, any final thoughts on the golf? We haven't talked about it, I don't think, since last week. And we did talk a little bit about it last week. Before we go there, let's talk about the Gator baseball team, among the other things. I got some stats today. FSU is a really good baseball program. We forget about that,
Ooh, let me tell you, their baseball team's having the type of season that their men's basketball program had this year.
Really?
I mean, they lost 10 in a row at one point. That literally had never happened before.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to necessarily feel sorry for them, but let me say, here's some numbers I picked up today. The Gators and FSU, the last baseball team said they've beaten FSU on 26 of the last 32 games. I mean, that's crazy, right? We're not talking about, Little Sisters of the Poor. We're talking about FSU.
No. Yeah.
21 of the last 25, 16 of the last 19, and 8 straight full series. Wow. That is total domination of the Seminoles. I mean, total.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's no defense if you're Florida State there. You are getting your butt kicked.
Yeah. We'll see. They're ranked number 3. We'll see. They've gotten some really, really good pitching from Sully's a terrific pitching coach. But they got a ways to go yet. Their bats have been sizzling, although right now they got a couple of guys in a little bit of a slump, but slump would be no home runs. But if this team all starts hitting together and their pitching staff and bullpen gets a little bit better, they got a shot in Omaha to win this thing.
Yes. In fact, it'll be a disappointment if this team doesn't get to Omaha. Absolutely.
Omaha, right. I think that's a chance to
Absolutely.
win it if their rotation lines
Because
up
it's difficult to imagine that the Gators' road to Omaha will not be anywhere but in Gainesville. They're obviously going to
Yeah.
host a regional,
Yeah.
but if they're a top 8 seed, they'll host a super regional. And it's difficult to imagine right now that this team will somehow, some way fall out of the top 8.
Right, exactly. I agree with you on that. Okay, this week the topic of the jour for the folks in the big shows, one in particular, is Nick Saban to Kirby Smart. Now it's obviously where we're going with this. I don't feel compelled to name one the GOAT and the other one over the other one. But yesterday, I guess it was Mike Griffith, who's the big mouth of the Bulldogs, went on to say basically that Kirby Smart is the GOAT now. He's won back to back. Yeah, that's what he said. Yeah, he's a GOAT. Yeah, he's a GOAT. He's beat Nick Saban and won back-to-back SECs and
right. By the way, he's beaten Nick Saban once, time. Right. One time in a row. Right. That's it. They didn't play last year.
Right.
And then the year before that, they split. Yeah. Right. And then before that, Kirby couldn't beat Nick with a subpoena. Right.
Good line.
Okay. Yeah. That's hysterical.
So we get this all the time. Everybody wants to declare by the GOAT. I wonder how this is going when they stretch out this playoffs, which is going to happen in 2 years, how this is going to affect everybody. Now, Saban will be in the playoffs every year then, for sure, seems like. And how do we measure this kind of thing? I don't even know how to measure it. I mean, national championships is one and probably the most important, but be careful about calling somebody a GOAT, right?
Well, let's be frank. Is he the GOAT at Georgia? Yeah. I mean, the first thing he's got to do is be the GOAT at Georgia. Mm-hmm. And if you think that what he's now done puts him ahead of Vince Dooley, okay. That's enough. And maybe by the time the decade's done, I mean, how about try to get yourself on the Mount Rushmore of SEC coaches? Let's go there.
Who would that be?
Well, I mean, he's close if he's not on it. And it also depends on how far back you want to go.
He's trending. He's trending.
I mean, are you, do you want to go back to Neyland? I mean, how far back are we going here?
Let's make a ruling and say we go to Neyland.
Okay, well, to me, knock one of these 4 off. Mm-hmm. All right, Neyland, Coach Bryant, Nick, and Steve. Mm-hmm. Okay, I mean, to me, then that's your Mount Rushmore. So you have to come up with somebody who's going to knock one of those 4.
Well, probably they would knock Neyland off to put Kirby in there. Would be my guess. What they would try to do more than likely.
Okay.
And
okay, and maybe so. I see. To me, he's got what? He's got 2 national championships, 2 SEC championships. Mm-hmm. Okay. And yeah, back to back. That's neat. That doesn't happen very often, although Nick's done it. So just, can't we just, do we always have to label everything? Do we have to appoint everything? I mean,
that's my point. Yeah. Now I'll ask you this question. I love this guy, and you likely did too, but is Billy Donovan the greatest coach ever in the history of the SEC?
No.
He won back-to-back championships.
Come on. He's not.
I'm just using Mike Griffith's logic here.
You can't put him ahead of Adolph Rupp, obviously.
No, and I wouldn't. I'm just saying, though, that's the same kind of thinking.
No doubt. And I would put Pitino ahead of Billy Donovan. Okay, even though Rick only got 1 and Billy got 2, and back to back and what have you, but I think if the teams were even, Rick's teams win. I think he was better. But what Billy did's amazing. What Billy did, was amazing.
Yeah,
and a lot of people have forgotten it, not in Gainesville, but around the country. And there's no doubt, I think if you do the Mount Rushmore of SEC coaches, that he'd be on it.
Yeah. Speaking of Mount Rushmores, got to start someplace. How's Todd Golden doing right now? I mean, we don't see it on the record the first year, but what could be a really impressive turnaround based on what we're hearing. I don't know about these players. I've seen clips on them. Certainly the big kid from Marshall, 7'1", has got a story. He got some length. Another guy's 6'8". So he looks like he's really gearing up to have a good year.
Oh, good.
And
Because
this
last
guy,
year was
no, of
disappointing,
course
and
it
the
was.
roster
Yes,
and the
it was.
roster needs a hell of a lot more talent
And
than what it had.
I think he knew that. I think he
Yeah.
knew that's what he's going to
Yeah.
do. I
But I
take
mean,
from others
can he
to
win?
tell me that. I don't know that.
Can he win a meaningful game before we start going crazy?
Oh, I didn't go crazy. I just made a comment about things going well.
No.
And you said
I
yourself
said
about- yeah.
I said he's having a great transfer portal.
Yeah,
But
I'm just kind of agreeing with you.
I mean,
And
Dan Mullen had a really good first 2-3 years
what
too.
happened to Dan Mullen? Okay, now we're going to put it on the table. What happened to Dan Mullen? I mean, look, that is one of the best stories never written. And I still will go to my grave wondering what went wrong. Something went wrong. He had a show cause. We never heard about it. We never heard it. It was never explained. He went for, and Steve Spurrier was the one who anointed him. So he's going to break my record, after 2 years. We all thought he was the guy. You, me, all of us did.
Mhm.
And the bottom just dropped out.
Well, here's what we thought. And when it comes to X's and O's, Dan was tremendous. Dan, when he got on a play calling role, he would even have Nick and Kirby on their heels. He was brilliant as a play caller. But we thought, since he did a pretty darn effective job of recruiting and developing talent at Mississippi State, that, wow, if he can do the same thing at Florida, only he'll do it with a whole different level of player, then he's going to be very successful. And it turned out that Dan did a horrible job recruiting. I mean, and the success that he had was almost entirely with Jim McElwain's players. I mean, if you looked at who the key players were.
Right. You're absolutely right.
Okay. And so the fact is, Dan failed as a recruiter. And that's why the program is in the state that it's in right now. Dan was doing a good enough job as X's and O's, and McElwain left him just enough key talent at the right positions that it was hiding the fact. It was like, the duck underneath that we couldn't see, and the iceberg underneath that we couldn't see that was falling apart. And then eventually when it fell apart and we looked around and we're like, oh my goodness, this program's in disarray.
Yeah. And
Dan, failed in recruiting. And that's why I know if I'm an AD, depending on the job, like I'd have no problems hiring Dan for a mid-level Power 5 job. But I don't know if I could hire Dan for a high-level Power 5 job ever again, because he had one and he did a horrible job recruiting. And if you can't recruit in Gainesville, then I have to question your ability to recruit.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. You're getting some kudos from our fans here tonight. They must be thrilled. They must be bored. David Moulton batting 1,000 tonight.
Must be bored. That's outstanding.
He can be. You could be playing for the Rays that batting average, pal.
No way. No way. Yeah. Bullpen catcher maybe for the Rays. That's about it.
All right. So now David does his show every morning. Tell them about it. You and Miller, and what have been your topics this week, and what would they likely be the rest of the week?
Well, we talk a lot of football because people seem to be really interested in that sort of thing.
A lot of NFL too, right?
But let's see. But tomorrow going to have Edgar Thompson from the Orlando, Sentinel on to talk about the whole, Gator Collective and what it's now called and what it's now going to be, and also preview
Florida Victorious, David. Florida Victorious.
Which I have to admit, not crazy about the name.
You know where it comes from? I think the song "Oh, the Orange and Blue Victorious."
Okay, all right. Well, then now,
they
okay.
Know,
well, now I have to admit, now it sounds better.
Yeah.
Okay, now it sounds better. And
know,
listen, bottom line is, if it produces players, it'll sound great.
Yeah. It's interesting to see what this guy Acosta is about. I did a little research on him. I talked to Eddie Rojas yesterday. Going to have him on the show tomorrow. He got blamed for the whole Rashada deal,
Mm-hmm.
which I think was unfair, but he had a part in it, and there were others that did as well. But according to what he says, he had the say in who it got sold to, and he personally picked Acosta, who's a billionaire and whose family are so-called horticulturists. I'm told they grow trees. I think mostly Christmas trees. But anyway, they got their board set up. I see they got several layers of boards, and Laura Rutledge is on one of them, even the advisory board, because they're head of the UAA advisory board. So that's interesting. So
I got to admit, I'm a little surprised the ESPN would allow that.
I am too. I'm sorry. I am as well.
My guess is they're not aware of it, but when they become aware of it, I'll be curious if they allow it. I mean, that seems to be a conflict of interest, but
seems so, yeah.
What do I know?
I don't know. What do we know? All right, so that's what's going on there. So, all right, David, listen, I want to thank you for being on tonight again. I always love having you, being on the program. I owe you lunch, and I want to play your sponsors so we can get you free lunch, because they're the ones who sponsor really don't.
Titan MRI?
There you go.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
All right, thanks, Titan MRI, who features our spotlight guest, David, being the spotlight guest tonight. Appreciate it very much, David, and have a great weekend. You won't make it down for the Orange and Blue game, I'm sure, but
no, I will not.
It's on SEC Plus,
something like that,
and something like that. And I got the information today. I still don't understand it exactly. You got to get so many different pluses and this and that anymore to get everything, but it'll be on somewhere in a neighborhood near you, David.
I'm looking forward to these spring games being against someone else.
Yeah, right. Against these smaller teams. I'm sure.
Yeah. Bring in a Troy, bring in a UAB, that sort of deal.
Or whoever. I mean,
let them play. Let's go.
Well, Billy's in favor. He said that.
I know, and I applaud him for it.
Yeah, I do too. So let's give him a hand too, as we also give David a hand. For,
you're loving the sound effects tonight, aren't you?
David Moulton, the great David Moulton. Thank you, buddy. Have a good week. All right. Take care.
Take care, everyone.
Take care. All right, David Moulton. Thanks, folks, for listening, watching. I want to be sure and tell you about my farm, my deal here. Well, you got to get involved. You got to know about this right here, and I have a new crop, which you can't see here. This is my old crop of my garden tower, grow tower, where I grow and run greens and all the good stuff. And I'll take a picture of the new one soon, which I should have in maybe a week or so. The little babies growing up. I thought about singing to them last night. See if that would help it. Maybe not. And that's what they start out and they become. That's indoor, grown with LED lights and very low cost of electricity. And they have water. You see the bottom of that, so like a well in it, and automatically waters the plants. And then you can do things like this, which I'm proud of because I made it. Well, I didn't cook the hamburger, but my wife did, and it was pretty darn good. And I'll have to admit, it's pretty healthy too. So I'm able to do things like this. Let's see if I can get it back and show you again. Make you hungry tonight. This is what we do when we pick the greens, put them together in a salad, put a little lemon juice on them and what have you, and garlic dressing, and we make up an organic meat and put it on top of that, nice medium rare, and there you have it. My cardiologist tells me that's a healthy looking meal, and it is, and it's delicious. So if you would like to know more about how you can get a tower, I'm checking on this now. I'm getting better at it. There's a way to get one and pay it off by the month, and then ultimately, if you have to sell one or two, you make money back. So check it out. It's buddytowers.com, just like it says, Buddy, B-U-D-Y, Towers, TOWERS.com, and find out what it costs, how you do it, and you too can be a farmer like me. Ben Troop's mama is going to get one. They'll be on tomorrow, hopefully, with me, and we'll talk about that. So that's it for tonight. Thanks to our sponsors, to Melvin Law, Titan MRI, Red Star Medical Research, which I'm going to tell you about right now, and of course, Garden Tower. Remember, the folks at Red Star do a terrific job. They do a terrific job as stakeholders in our community and as a research medical facility. They have a high quality patient-centered clinical research facility right here in Ocala, in downtown. They have cutting-edge clinical trials in areas of things like Alzheimer's and psoriasis, osteoarthritis, migraines, fibromyalgia, etc., along with many other conditions that affect us right here in the community. They want that data, so they ask you to come take part in these if you'd like, and you can get compensation sometimes for time and travel if you go. And they partner up with prominent pharmaceutical and biomedical companies throughout the medical industry. So check them out. Go to renstar.net, find out if you want to get involved. Renstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching.